Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. It's been 10 seasons of empowering small businesses such as yourself and hand-holding you in your growth journey. I'm Sunanda Jayasee, and on the show tonight, we're continuing our Unicorn series, putting the spotlight on India's biggest unicorns, bringing you their growth stories, talking about what makes them tick, their highs, their lows, and most importantly, their takeaways and lessons for you, our viewers. On the show tonight, we have two such unicorns. First up, I'm in conversation with Druva, joining us live on the show. Also, the spotlight tonight on Rebel Foods. Jaspreet Singh, founder CEO of Druva, joining me live on the show tonight. Jaspreet, good having you with us. Unfortunately, we couldn't meet up face to face, but it's good that you could make the time to join us today. And I do know there's a little bit of a time difference, so appreciate all the more the effort in taking the time out to do this conversation with us. Let's start by really trying to understand the concept behind Druva. And what was the problem that you were trying to solve when you launched your company?
It's a great question. So when we started off, we saw data was becoming extremely important part of the enterprise journey. Digital transformation was actually a data transformation exercise across the landscape. Data was doubling every year. The threats were also increasing. And yet, managing information was an exceptionally hard problem. Enterprises did not fundamentally trust their information or trust it to be always there, right? So we thought we really want to make data work. We want to make sure it's resilient, it's secure, it's trustworthy, so enterprise can truly empower their decisions and trust information available to them.
At Druva, I understand you are focused on delivering simplicity, scalability, and security of public cloud as far as enterprise data protection and management is concerned. Talk to us a little bit more about that.
So that's a great question. If you look at an entire data landscape, the data risks are constantly increasing. You have risk of cyber attacks, you have risk of regulatory concerns, you have risk of just a variety of insider threats coming to the platform. Now, in all things digital, in all things becoming more and more online, data is becoming paramount important. The whole digitalization of an enterprise is actually a data architecture being all over redone for enterprise. And at the core of this entire equation is, how do I trust my data to be there when we actually, my entire business depends upon it? Right? And that's really why simplicity is extremely important here, because, as Devonsi said, in simplicity, sophistication is the ultimate form of simplicity, right? So we truly have to make sure that to really have people trust their data, the things have to be simple, have to be completely buttoned down, so the trust is there and they can actually, deploy a solution with ease, with coverage, and feel secure at the end of the day.
Jaspreet, having built really this ecosystem and having gone through this journey of having built a business which is as successful as Druva and going, of course, through the unicorn route, my question is just your top takeaways, 2-3 of your top takeaways for a viewer who's watching based on your entrepreneurial journey.
I think entrepreneurship is extremely vibrant in India right now. There's a humongous opportunity with the focus on digital payments, cashless economy, with a focus on, in general, enterprises looking to cloud for modernizing their entire ecosystem and focus on SaaS. So it creates a humongous, place for entrepreneurs to have really focus on innovation and drive meaningful solutions in the industry of today and tomorrow. It's a great time to be an entrepreneur and to really reinvent how this economy, how this country, did business in the past.
I really want to build on that and say, if you had any advice for someone who's watching today's interview, what would you like to tell them?
I think that's a good question. There's probably no silver bullet to success. I think any overnight success takes a long time. The fundamentals are to really focus on product market fit, to really understand what the market needs, what the offering is, and how do you continuously refine the product market fit to really have a very strong, a 10x better solution for customers that they can feel proud to deploy, proud to use, and then the goodness comes. The rest is all execution, and there's probably no good ground rules, and it's called venture for a reason, that you just simply have to try different things, whatever works to sort of execute along the way. Most people trade their passions for glory too quickly. They have to stick to their guns, really have their fundamental belief in what they've built, and actually execute through it.
So if someone is watching this interview saying, I would like to perhaps become a unicorn just like Druva, based just on that experience and that milestone really, what would you want to tell us?
I think unicorn or not, it's a game of valuation. But before that, I think it all starts with building an incredibly good product and having a phenomenally good focus on customer. And once you have a phenomenally good focus on customer and customer empathy in mind, and really work hard to innovate consistently, to improve your product and offering, and build a culture of innovation, rest simply happens. I think raising in this economy, in this market, raising money, having valuations is all of a second nature, will happen once the business is good. So I would tell anybody in Druva otherwise to focus on the product, focus on the customer, rest simply follows.
Okay, let's take a little bit of a big picture look and ask you to talk about the top trends for 2022. If you were to look at that and say, this is what I want to call out for the viewers of Leaders of Tomorrow, what would that be?
It's a great question. If you look at last 30 years, and the biggest trend initially to start the last 30 years was, the whole notion towards a software-based ecosystem, right? Coming from hardware and mainframes, going into client-server and software. And then finally, we went into internet, right? How do we have internet-oriented companies which are driving the whole consumption of technology online, Yahoos of the world and Google. Then finally came cloud. We still believe we're very early stages of cloud. And from cloud, now we're seeing trends of really coming to serverless computing, which is becoming a big trend, blockchain, which will define decentralized trust. There's still, even though machine learning has been around for a while, the applicability of machine learning into all things software is becoming more and more relevant. Security focused on data is becoming very much paramount important. There's been a humongous focus in the past on this detection prevention of a network-based or a app-based attack, but the data-centric security is becoming more and more paramount important as you go further into this year and even beyond.
SaaS platforms, especially for small businesses, has grown just that much more exponentially and significantly. Your advice for businesses that are watching this about how they can leverage really technology and platforms like SaaS to grow, to stay more relevant, to see faster growth coming in, what can you tell us?
A great question. And SaaS is a very good tool for today's enterprise to really transform their business digitally. If you think about cloud first, public cloud was simply a promise that you could consume any resource anywhere in the world at a single price point, right? The quality of service was consistent in cloud compared to traditional ways of doing IT. But there was a complexity element to cloud. There was a relearning element to cloud. People had to retool themselves, relearn themselves in the new era. Now, SaaS makes it even further more easier and simpler to actually consume cloud. It's a solution completely optimized as a service, delivered in a consistent price point and consistent experience across the globe, without any learning curve to really understand cloud. Now, in this economy, in this time where businesses have to be more focused on competition, more focused on growth, at the same time be cognizant of cost, SaaS gives an advantage where businesses can actually, adapt to a digital economy without having a learning curve, a steep learning curve of cloud. At the same time, have a humongous change in thinking about a capital-oriented model of 5 years of CapEx going into a very consistent OpEx-oriented model. You try, you buy, you consume, you grow. The SaaS-based model. So very, very strong, beneficial trend for enterprises across the globe.
I want to take a slightly different view and really talk about, software and talk about really IT and information technology as a field of studies as we know it. What changes are you foreseeing that technology for students who are studying it now? How will that change? How will that stay relevant? And, just how perhaps that entire ecosystem is going to change in the next couple of years.
So software eating the world is now going to travel, airlines, pizza delivery all over the world, right? So the 30-year-old trend is now transforming this industry. Now think about cloud, think about machine learning, think about blockchain. These are mega 30, 40-year-old trend, which is just starting up, right? And they could transform the world of how we think of traditional systems, how we think about governments, how we think about policy. So definitely very bullish on today's student to think about software, think about technology, and we are probably just barely starting and the problems we will be solving in the future, we don't even know about them today. So definitely very bullish about technology overall as a field to learn and grow into.
All right, Jaspreet, thanks for your time on the show here.
Likewise, thank you for having me here.
I'm going to slip into a short break, but we will continue talking about technology and the power of technology with the unicorn that's coming up next, but that's in connection with the food space. Rebel Foods joining me on the other side of this break. Do stay tuned. We are back in just a moment. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight I'm in conversation with Sagar Kocchar of Rebel Foods. We were talking about cloud really in my previous conversation, but I'm really going to continue that train of thought and talk about cloud. But when it comes to the restaurant space, what are cloud kitchens? What was the journey like to becoming a unicorn? What are some of the challenges and the highlights? All of that being posed to Rebel Foods. That's a conversation I did a short while earlier. Listen in. Sagar Kocchar, co-founder of Rebel Foods, joining us in the hot seat tonight. Sagar, good having you with us on the show. Congratulations, of course, on that unicorn status. Before we come and really talk about what your funding journey has been like, Sagar, could you talk to us about just a couple of highlights of the journey of Rebel Foods, what the USP is really of your business, and what encouragement and advice you can give based on that to our viewers?
First of all, thanks a lot, Sunanda and Team ET Now, for giving us this opportunity to talk about our journey of evolution, rather our journey of disrupting this century-old industry of F&B. So while the seeds were sown way back in 2004, when Jaideep and Kalol had just started a couple of stores in Pune of Fasos, the actual journey began in the year 2011, which is where when we started with an aspiration to build the Indian homegrown single largest QSR, that too in the category of Desi wraps. And while we began on that note, and there were obviously other operators like those, they were a burger chain, there was a pizza chain, but we soon realized that it wasn't enough. It wasn't disruptive enough for us to say that, we have really reimagined this industry. So we pioneered the cloud kitchen business model way back in 2014, and as the way to operate and scale. And we were also able to circumvent the perils of this traditional industry, which is where, if you look at the traditional way of building a F&B business, you have huge location risk. So there's a huge location risk, it's very capital intensive, there's a huge brand risk with the way in which the traditional F&B businesses have always operated. And that's why with the cloud kitchen business model, when we started, we were just to identify the catchment and open this very cloud kitchen of ours. And that really helped us to circumvent all these challenges and thereby scaling up from what 30, 40 outlets to about more than 150 outlets in a year's time.
So talk to us then about your funding and the funding journey leading up, of course, to that landmark of the unicorn status.
Right, Sunanda. So you're right that being a unicorn definitely happens to be a very, very, very important gold standard, very good milestone that every other startup aspires to accomplish. And we also fortunately did that about a year back. What it means, obviously, you get capital, you raise some funds, and you're able to double down on your strategy on things that are working really well for you. But what it also means, and that for us, is the fact that it's truly a validation from one of the best global investors that what you have been building. The way I mentioned in the previous question that how we have been trying to reimagine this age-old, century-old industry and challenge the status quo. There is a clear validation of that. The investor community and the larger world has started believing in this very business model of yours. So it means that. It also means to us that now these investors have also shown great belief in our mission, the mission which finally is kind of the North Star for us, which is to ensure that we keep on building a platform to bring the most delightful and the highest quality brands in every other mission, in every other neighborhood in the world.
I understand you plan to invest about $150 million and that will include some part towards the expansion in tier 2 and tier 3 markets. Just talk to us about the game plan there.
So like everything at Rebel, our mission statement also helps us to define what we do with this very raise. So our mission, again, just to reiterate, is to build the platform to bring in the highest quality brands, the most delightful brands in every other mission, in every other neighborhood in the world. Keeping that at the center, our investment strategy about this fund, and that is how we have started deploying over the last 1 year, is largely into these 3 buckets. The bucket number 1 is to keep on strengthening our current portfolio of brands. Brands like Behrooz, Aman Story keep on launching very innovative set of offerings in these different categories to ensure that these brands keep on growing well and also move towards the category leadership and continue having that leadership in that very category in which they are present. The second very bucket is, again, keeping the mission in mind, is to identify gaps that exist when it comes from a consumer lens, when you look at it from a consumer lens, as to what are the missions that we still are not able to tap through our portfolio of brands, and try to identify great global national gems which have, as I mentioned earlier, got built over multiple decades. And how do we identify these brands? And then we are looking at investing in these brands so that we can really, in a very seamless manner, scale these brands to different parts of the country where consumers really crave for them. And these brands happen to be brands like few of the investments that we have already done over the last few months. Brands like Biryani Blues, Zomos, Slay Coffee, Smooth Chocolates, and then there are many others that are under discussion. And the third bucket of investment goes into, again, a very, very important piece, which is fundamentally the secret sauce for ensuring that the first 2 buckets get well delivered, which is about strengthening the Rebel operating system, which is where we are investing a lot more onto strengthening our tech stack, right from doing a lot of automation onto the kitchen equipment side, or for the matter, kitchen management softwares and multiple such modules that we are building, and or for the matter also solving for a lot of challenges or problems that have been existed in the space of online food delivery, which is where we launched our own D2C platform by the name of EatSure, which is again attempting to solve for a lot of these consumer problems that have not been solved over these years.
Rebel Foods, of course, is the largest internet restaurant. What have some of your highlights been? Just call out really the opportunities and the challenges for our viewers.
Sure, Sunanda. There have been a whole lot of challenges that have been there in this industry. As I mentioned in the beginning, like if you look at, this has been just one of those industries which has not got disrupted by internet over hundreds of years. It has got built exactly the same way, wherein there were a lot of challenges with this industry, and those are the same challenges that even we in our journey faced. Like if I go back in the year 2014, when we were scaling up Fasos, getting the right sort of location, heavy duty capex that goes in, higher payback time, the rental to revenue to be at the ratio of about 18 to 20%. These are all challenges that we faced, and that's where we realized that do we really need to just keep on following the same suit, or do we actually take an attempt on reimagining the same? We looked at some interesting data points. We realized that consumers were moving a lot more towards convenience, wherein 70% of our orders started happening through delivery. Other interesting insight was that almost 67% of our consumers had not even seen our store frontal. Yet we were somewhere getting bogged down by opening the same old traditional format of F&B. Realizing this, we started the cloud kitchen business model, and then there was no looking back. So that was one of the interesting challenges that we faced back then, and we were able to mitigate that. Another interesting challenge that rather not just us, the entire industry faced was when the pandemic hit us. We all know how the F&B industry had a massive downturn when it came to the revenue numbers and the business volumes, how they tanked. But again, when we looked at this very challenge, we again tried to attempt as to how do we go about solving for it. We looked at as to what was the key problem. The key insight that we arrived at back then was that we realized that the consumers were now a lot more apprehensive about ordering food from outside, because like the 4 P's of marketing, there were these 4 P's of the food delivery which mattered a lot more to the users. The first P of being of product, consumers started realizing that what exactly are they putting inside their body? Is it good for them? What are the macronutrients, and so on and so forth? The second P of process, where exactly is my food being made? How is the process being handled? Is it really safe for me? The third P of people, wherein they also wanted to be assured that the people who are making the food are really in a healthy state. They are operating in a very hygienic manner. And the fourth P of packaging, that my food ultimately reaches to me in a very intact manner where nobody fiddles around with it. So with that very insight, we again attempted solving for this, and we launched our own D2C play of Eat Sure, wherein with the promise on all these 4 P, we launched the platform.
All right, Sagar, thanks for your time. Out of time on tonight's interviews, but if you have any unicorns that you would like to see featured here on this series, do let us know how to get in touch. Our details coming up on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.